This is a continued discussion from the previous episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
On the parts manufacturing side, and I'm curious because I didn't realize you guys were new to that, but as authorized parts manufacturers, walk me through, like, how did that evolve for you guys, or did that come out of maybe the tooling and the fabrication piece, and now you're just saying, hey, we've got a better machine now, so I can make something better than just aluminum billets?
Most of it's just support for the product you do. In the manual, you're authorized to make the details. So that's pretty much all we do. We don't do an OEM manufacturer or anything like that. We don't do a PMAs type manufacturing. It's mostly just to support our product that we do. But still, the material, you still got to buy.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, you can't ship the part. So.
Well, maybe I've got some old GT9 7R4s I need to scrap out, and maybe I can get some Inconel pumped into the marketplace for you.
I got to start scrapping ours, too. So it's I still got JT80 parts. So.
Wow. Wow. I had a colleague of mine make a nice joke to one of our guys saying, hey, I need some JT8 engines. We're going to jump into a new marketplace. We're aging ourselves is what we're doing.
Oh, jeez.
Oddly enough, on our airfield in Kansas City, we have, as a collective, an L1011 that's still there, and we have a 727, which is getting ready to get scrapped, and a Bach 111. So a couple of them are educational ones, and then the 727 was a trainer for the fire department. We finally got authorized to cut it up and get rid of it. It was pretty funny, and the guys that turned it over to us were expecting us to buy it from them. I'm like,
why?
You need to pay me to take this problem off of your hands. We worked it out, but it's certainly interesting seeing all the old metal in Kansas City. I even have a DC-10 in Kansas City, so you can talk about the aging aircraft. So speaking of aircraft, I asked this question of everybody. Right? I hope you've had a few minutes to think about it, but everybody's got a favorite aircraft for some reason or another, and you've got a more diverse background because you've been on some smaller aircraft, so I'll be curious what you think.
My favorite aircraft is the Piper Cub. The old Piper Cubs, cloth, two-seater, tail up, two wheels, one engine. If it goes, it goes. If it fails, it glides. To me, it's a beautiful plane. Sitting in front of a hangar somewhere, it could just sit there. And to me, that's probably my favorite. My second favorite would be a Cessna, a small Cessna that we flew in, my father and I flew in. And the bigger aircraft, not big fans, but love the engines.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
it's strange.
We run into this with a lot of people that we talk to here on Nose to Tail is you often get engine guys and airframe guys, and I'm kind of an airframe guy. I let my engine folks run and do their expertise, and it's interesting how we all kind of live on our side of the fence. We wave to each other. We're nice.
Yep.
Give you a cup of sugar,
play every once in a while.
Every once in a while, we're in the same ballpark, but for the most part, it is interesting how people kind of stick with that one genre.
Yeah, that's one thing I have never experienced was the airframe more. It's always been engines.
Some days I wish I wasn't so much airframe. I wish I knew more about engines, but my brain is pretty full, so I got to use Rick and his team to pick up the slack for me, so that they make my life a little bit easier that way. Well, and certainly on the technical side, I think people with technical backgrounds probably gravitate towards things like engines and landing gear and APUs because their technical expertise really lends itself to those product lines versus the balance of most aircraft. But anyway, it's good. I had this thought creep into my head. I know that with the whole world really trying to be more green and fuel efficiencies and weight tolerances for the aircraft, one of the things that I'm curious about is how the newer manufactured components are holding up, they're creating more thrust with less fuel burn. But how are those holding up now that we're starting to see maybe a 10, 15 years that some of those newer models have been in service? What have you guys been seeing?
We see more repairs being done. More repairs coming across. Engine shops will accept more repairs than asset management companies. So we have seen an uptick in higher pricing because of more repairs. It'd be curious to extend that out a little further when you go into what's the future and you look at the electric motors.
Yep.
And that's going to be a fascinating change if it transpires, but I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's some interesting things happening with hydrogen that I'm not real sure exactly how they're going to implement it, right? 'Cause you have a different kind of safety concern with hydrogen. But I've seen some hydrogen drones that do exist that are fully autonomous.
Okay.
And so if they can create that with a 500-pound capacity drone, can they create enough power to if they're turning drone blades, I'm sure they can turn propeller blades. And I'll be very intrigued to see where that goes. The security of the person sitting in the passenger seat is obviously huge for the whole aviation marketplace, right? And,
yes.
and I think people and how they feel about, geez, I don't have a 10,000 gallons of fuel in this airplane to make sure I make it there. I'm dealing with some new technology. I think that's not as big of an obstacle as the science and the physics are to the actual problem. It's a cool time to be in the industry.
Yes.
You know, I think back to when it was more glorified, when you got onto every airplane from the ground and walked up a set of stairs.
Yeah.
That was a little bit different of a world. That is something that's maybe changed for us, right? We're now more maybe robotic, sitting in terminals and waiting in those places. But I do think that this is a real scientific, there's going to be some scientific things that happen here with the physics and wing designs. I've had a couple of meetings with some folks who want to talk about support on maintenance and hangars. They showed me some prototypes. I'm like, that's very intriguing. It's very intriguing that people are tackling it that way. And honestly, they were private companies that were tackling it. So it was also interesting that it wasn't a government-driven solution. So maybe more on that next year. I get a little deeper in those conversations and avoid an NDA in there somewhere. Yeah. It looks like they got a cold beer for us. You want a cold beer?
Sure.
All right. Hey, Karen. Man, I'm really thirsty.
That was the point.
Thank you.
No.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And thank you to our folks over at Vortex Aviation for providing us with some libations here. Certainly get thirsty when you talk too much. I never do that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's much better.
Okay.
Well, listen, now that we got a cold beer and kind of wrap things up, is there anything you want to add, or maybe a great story or something you'd like those folks out there to hear from you that can impact maybe their aviation career?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and a lot of people, younger people, they've been shying away from the machine shops and the hands-on. Everybody likes to play on a computer. Everybody wants to play on their phone and everything. But there's a need out there for people to turn wrenches. There's a need for people to start fixing things, to be physically touching something. And there's more opportunities now than there ever has been for all these aviation schools. And there's funding by the states, by companies, by everything. And you're starting to see more and more of the apprenticeship programs being reinstituted. Take advantage of it, because we're losing a lot of knowledge that's been there for years. And now's the time to capitalize on that knowledge before that's gone. And there's a great opportunity out there for the younger people to make something of themselves. And it's a good career. I mean, it's a hard career.
Yeah.
As you probably know, it's a hard career. But if you stick with it, you can go anywhere. And I think it's very important that we emphasize to the youth to get involved. See what's happening. There's more safety things involved now with engines. Maybe not the news tells you all that.
Yeah.
But people that are in the industry know there's things in place to capture things. And they should be part of that. Yeah. And that's really my biggest message, to get involved.
Yeah.
Get into the aviation. It is well worth it.
I think so. I was talking to Sammy over at Etihad Engineering, and he made a comment that's sticking in my head right now, which is the aviation industry itself is really resilient. You really have a resilient field, a professional field to go into, do all these different things, that no matter the turmoil that ever happens in the world, you're going to need us, right? Yeah. You're going to need us to support all of the unique pieces. It's why everybody is here at MRO, right? So, it's fantastic to think about it that way as a young career. Like, hey, go into it, try it. If you can survive in this marketplace, the rest of the world's a heck of a lot slower.
Yes.
I often tell people I would probably be a really poor employee. If I went to work for some other industry, I'd be like, what is going on here? We got to go faster.
We got to go move.
Let's go. And so I think you're absolutely correct on that. And I think that's pretty sage advice for young people. Just get into the business, try it. There is a lot of opportunities. And in the engine world, I know I talked to the folks at Delta Tech Ops, they're building huge engine shops on the newest generation stuff.
Yes.
Go get trained on the brand new material. Go get in the front of that new queue of technology. And I think there'll be huge impacts for all of us if we can build that young group.
Does.
So awesome. Cheers. Thank you again for being here. Thank you to everybody who's watching us here on the Nose and Tail podcast. Thanks to all you listeners out there who are listening and watching us. Hopefully you learned something new about aviation today, and we're excited to see you join the aviation marketplace.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Nose to Tail. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Presented by Jet Midwest.